Hello, hello. Good morning. Here we are, vlog number 3. Hey, hey, hey. We are we're a few weeks away from delivering this baby. I'm 30, almost 36 weeks pregnant. Not a lot of things are fitting me these days, so you take what you can get. Um, I even have my little fan because sometimes I just get like hot. It's weird. I get the sweats. Okay. It's an interesting time. It's we've been closing up some of our bigger clients and projects, and slowing down, but also reflecting on what did we learn this year, how can we be more intentional in 2026, because our time will be a little different because we're going to have a little baby around here. um, there's a lot of feelings, and like I said, I think that's part of why I'm doing these vlogs too. If there's anybody out there who's looking to be a mom or be a parent and they're an entrepreneur, how does that work? I will keep you posted. We're gonna figure this out together. But I think I am excited though. I think this week has been one of the first weeks where I've haven't been as like what do I have to do, this and that. Been able to kind of like slow down and honestly leave room and space to get really excited about the baby. So yeah, so we're excited about that. We behind there, I don't know if you see a white box, but we're getting our holiday cards ready to send out, and it's one of my favorite things to do of the year, just to do something special. So stay tuned. They're pretty cute this year. So yeah, we're doing good. We are we're in this like interesting limbo, right, in between the life before baby and life after baby. And but it's all good. Grateful and happy. And it's similar to entrepreneurship. You always have to remember your why, because I think the greatest things in life are not always going to be easy, and it can be challenging. And so I like always remembering why we decided to be entrepreneurs is a very big, very important tactic. And same with motherhood, right? Like remembering like why did we want to bring this child into this world, and we wanted to have a home and pour into this relationship with our child. And so it's good. All right, what are we going to be talking about today? Ooh, well, listen, the world of marketing is huge. It's huge. I know last time we talked about how important it is to really understand who you are, what your brand is, so that you can navigate, move forward with that foundation. Another big part of that foundation is understanding who you're trying to attract, right? What clients do you want? And a lot of the times you hear like target audience, who's your target, who's your ideal client, customer, blah, 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 blah. But this is a casual conversation. These vlogs are meant to be casual, and I hope you feel like you're sitting here with me. And so I think, there's two things. I think when you begin as an entrepreneur, sometimes you're not really, you kind of have a sense of who you want to sell to, but you also kind of want to leave it open. I think that's reality. We definitely did the same thing. We thought, we were gonna hit this larger demographic, and then we started to see how they would react to the services and costs and prices and understanding of what the value of what we do, and so that sort of molded into where the spaces that made sense. And so we're narrowing down now after a few years, especially with service-based businesses. It can be tricky that way. Now, when we're talking about, a donut or a concha, right? Like that's also, I guess that could be tricky too, right? Because one would think, oh, it's anybody who loves sweets, anybody who enjoys sweets and wants to go and buy a sweet treat, right? But it could be a little bit more, especially with business, you have to be a little bit more strategic and intentional, right? With what kind of people, right? I think we always look at like the demographic, and that's why people talk about like the ideal customer. You kind of want to describe what this person is, right? If they walk through the door, where are they from? What industry do they work in? What are their aspirations? What how is your business and your product, right, a solution for their problems, you know? And that's something that, sorry, a little congested because of the pregnancy. Um, and that's something that, by the way, I always have like little things on my desk. This is very handy when I'm like, I'm a little fidgety. So I'm gonna, I got this in Morelia a long time ago. And I actually have another one that's in better, newer shape, but it still needs to be cracked in, and I've been avoiding. So I'm gonna go back to this guy. Yeah, but you know, I think keeping it simple at first is good, because I know there's, as an entrepreneur, you're had it in your hand is in so many things, right? But I think as you start to understand your sales, right, of like who's saying yes to you, who's saying maybe to you, you start to kind of see patterns and trends. And to me, being in business for whatever time you are in, you're collecting data, you're collecting information and trends and patterns, and so it's important to reflect and understand, what are the kind of people that are saying yes to you, how are you connecting with them, right? Whether it's your pitch or your social media or your newsletter, whatever tactics you're using, marketing tactics you're using to reach out and connect, it's important to kind of like observe and see what's working, what's not. And the truth is, you're in a lot of things, so when are you gonna have time to reflect, Jackie? Well, at least give at least give yourself the end of the year, right? At least if there's one moment is to reflect on the end of the year to see what's going on, because as you enter the new year, want to see how you can optimize, right? Improve your sales, your situation. And I think we all ought to give ourselves that grace and time. Now, ideally, you can do it on a quarterly basis. Usually what helps is having like a template or a tool where it's easy to plug in and understand, digest. So you're not sort of starting from scratch all the time. So, this time right now, usually things sort of tend to slow down. If there's time for you to do that, I encourage you to do that. And make it easy for yourself, make it simple. I know that there's a lot of templates and things out there that are recommended, but you could take one and mold it to be simple and useful for you, because everybody's different in that sense. So I think that's important. This pregnancy also, by the way, I'm like shortness of breath. Yeah, I don't know. People talk about missing pregnancy, and at this time and place, I don't know that I would, but we'll see. I'll definitely let you know. I'll let you know if I do miss it. I think it's also important to, take time to understand like what, how your audience is changing, right? Like what are the things that they, there's a lot of like trend reports of like the year that's going to come, to understand, how to, you got to keep up, and it's I think it's honest to feel like, oh my God, like, am I ever going to catch up? Am I ever going to be there? But I think it's about accepting the ebbs and flows of all that. And I'm going to sneeze right now. Excuse me. Whew. My goodness. I think it's like, I don't know. I think it's about accepting the ebbs and flows of the things you have to do, and having little wins to help, whether it's getting more resources or support to help you in certain areas. I remember the first year we were doing all our finances on Excel, because we couldn't, didn't have the financial ability, or, we didn't know where to go for the management of that. And the next year we got QuickBooks, and we, so I think it's like, I think it's about slowly, incrementally growing your ecosystem, your system of everything. And some people like to take bigger leaps. I think you would just have to check in with yourself of like, how fast do you want to go, right? Or how methodical you want to go. I think for us, we've always been very, very intentional about the movements that we've been making. And I am proud of us, our target audience has changed in some ways. In some ways it hasn't. When we first started out, we were like, we're going to help all small business owners. And then we realized a lot of them don't have a marketing budget. So then we're like, okay, how are we going to sustain our own business? And we've had to be creative, like we work with a lot of organizations that help small business owners. And so that's a way to still reach out to them and connect with them and support them and support our own business, right? And then we found other ways to help those that don't have the budget, right? We've done mixers. We started our podcast because we really wanted to reach and educate those folks with our expertise and build. I think for us, we want to build community. We want to build a space to have fun with marketing, because I think marketing gets a bad name. So yeah, I think when you're thinking about your target audience, I also think about like, what is the community you want to build? When you think about your business and your legacy, like, who are the group of people you want to nurture and support? And I don't know that question gets asked much, but I'm going to throw it out there, and I think that's important. And I say that because as entrepreneurs, what we do is so personal. It's, we are choosing our hard. There's some perks to being an entrepreneur, but it's not the easiest of roads, and so I think I feel like that's a question to ask yourself, right? But yeah, I think take this time, to reflect, understand what's working, what's not working with your clients, and then look at your marketing and go, okay, based on this information, where do I need to put most of my effort in, and try to trial and error. Maybe set up some tools, some templates for yourself, so you could be checking in on a more regular basis. And these are things I tell IRAs. This is like, we're still building our business. We're, I still think we're very new. We're 3 years old, 3-ish. And I had another entrepreneur who's pretty successful tell me, buckle in. It's going to take 10 years to really feel like you're like have a sustainable business. And you can look at that two ways, right? You can look at it and say, oh my gosh, 10 years, that's a long time. Or you could be like, oh, there's no rush. Let's do this, And I choose the latter, obviously. But anyways, yeah, we'll be in touch. My goal here is to check in with y'all at least on a weekly basis until baby comes, and then maybe take a little hiatus, come back, and continue chit-chatting. But thank you for visiting our channel. We obviously would love your support to subscribe, share this with any other entrepreneurs or marketing specialists, anybody who's looking to build community and is curious about marketing, and is also, I do want to invite any mom entrepreneurs to join our channel here, and would love your comments and your commentaries and advice, because we're going to need it. And I think there's a lot of people out there who are going to need it as well. All right. Until the next time, we'll see you later. Bye.